All right, now we're going to learn how to visualize some raster data in 3D. And for this, we have some of my favorite data. It's my Mars data. You can download the zip file. And it is zipped, so we are going to have to extract it. So let's open it and extract all. I'll just leave it in my downloads, that's fine. There it is. And then I'm going to continue to use the same project that I was working on with the vector data. I'll just insert a new flat map and a new local scene. And just to be kind of tidy, I'm going to call this, rename it to Mars. And I'll rename this one to Mars scene, so I can keep track. And then since we're going to be visualizing some Mars, I think it's extra important to turn off, the our world space maps. Okay. So I have two blank, a blank map and a blank scene. Let's go to the Add Data ribbon. Come on, all of my tools get in the way here. Let me hide the zoom tools and go to Map. And go to Add Data. There we go. And then my downloads. Here is Mars. When you click on this, I probably said this in the raster lesson, but don't double click on it and go inside the bands. Just single click on the Mars raster and say okay. It's got to build pyramids and all that. All right, beautiful. If you are prompted to build pyramids, calculate statistics, calculate a histogram, the answer is yes, you do want to do that. It'll make all the visualization faster. So welcome to Mars. This is a very small section of the Martian surface. It is a DEM, these are elevations. And the first thing we can take a look at is the range of values here. They go from negative 4,500 to 75. Most of these are negative values. There's no sea level on Mars. So the planetary geologists had to decide on some level that was Martian zero, Martian sea level. And most of this particular image is lowlands, very low lying, and only a few like high ends of the craters pop up above that level. I also like it because we can really see some water features. There's what strongly appears to be a river here. And even it has broken through the side of this crater and made like perhaps at one time a crater lake. So it's a nice section of the planet to take a look at. I like to put it in color. I like to come into symbology and, maybe give it a Mars type color. Let's see if there's a good rusty red. How about something like that? Ooh, that's a little intense. First of all, we usually make the highlands the light color and the lowlands the dark color. So I'm going to invert. That's a little bit better. All right, there's our red planet Mars. To help with 3D visualization, it's nice to have a hillshade. So I'm going to create a hillshade, which will give us kind of a 2.5D view. I'll just show the shadows a little bit and allow this to pop as if it were 3D, even while it's still in the map. So let's go to the analysis ribbon, get the toolbox, and we'll search for the hillshade tool. Doesn't really matter which one we choose. The input raster will be Mars. The output raster I will call hillshade. I tend to leave these alone, azimuth and altitude. You could change them. They have to do with the direction that the sun is shining. So azimuth is where along the horizon the sun is, and altitude is how high from the horizon the sun is shining. These are like a sunny spring day in the northern hemisphere. So this is where we are maybe expecting the light to come from. When you change these, you get that strange crater effect where the highs look low and the lows look high because you're not expecting the shadows to be where they are. So I'll use the default, even though this is Mars. And I'll click Model Shadows and run it to get a hill shape. Okay, you can already see that it's starting to look a little 3D, right? I could possibly use symbology to increase the contrast here. So if I go into symbology and I change the stretch type, let's see what max min looks like. That's not much better. Standard deviation. Oh, I like that. Okay, that looks really 3D. And then with Hillshade highlighted, we can go to the raster layer menu. We can when that goes away, okay. And set the transparency. Let's make it like 50% transparent. And now you can see the colors and the details of the surface as if they were in 3D. So this is just 2 dimensions. This is not even in a scene, but it starts to give us that nice 3D look. Once I've done this work and I like how it looks, I'm going to copy and paste these over into the 3D scene. So let me highlight them both, this one and this one. Right click, copy, and then go to my scene and paste. And again, even though they look 3D-ish, this is still a flat image because we haven't told it how high to make the elevations. This is done in raster completely different from extrusion. It has nothing to do with extrusion. Instead, you're going to come down here to elevation surfaces and right click on the word ground. And it tells you to add an elevation source layer. Let's do that. We're going to tell it to show the heights of the Martian landscape on the measurements of the raster landscape. So add elevation source. And this is the only part that's weird. They don't allow you to choose it off of like a menu. You actually have to go into your file system and find those elevations of Mars again. So they are still in my downloads. I am ashamed to say I did not export a copy into my geodatabase. So instead I have to come back out here to Mars and to grab that raster again. And that makes it the elevation surface. Now, it's still pretty flat. We usually still, it is in 3D. If you really look close, it is in 3D. But we usually have the same problem that we have in vector data, which is the first time you try it, it's either too flat or too tall. To adjust that, to exaggerate or deflate the elevations for visual purposes, highlight ground. And when ground is highlighted, you get a new context-sensitive menu up here called Elevation Surface Layer, which has visual exaggeration. So you can just bump this up a bit. Let's try 5. And it'll just like make the mountains higher and the valleys lower. I think the last time I did this, I settled on 8 as a nice level to show the contrast in 3D. It's almost like a video game. Let's go. I want to go visit that channel. I really get a kick out of this channel where the river has cut through the edge of the crater here. Let me sort of change the direction so we can really look in there and tip it up. Look at that, look at that. You can really see how it cuts through. So I can zoom in a little bit. You know, when you get in close, you see the pixels. It's a little pixelated, and you can tell that it's been exaggerated. but it's really nice. And, you know, I want to say, if you turn off the hillshade, it's not as nice. It's 3D, but you can put the hillshade on and really get a good sense for, you know, look at these rough patchy areas. Look at this extra deep crater here. I really enjoy this data.